Bridging the Gap, Episode 1, Part 1. Through the Eyes of the Family. Why can't we understand each other? Welcome back to Bridging the Gap, understanding both sides. One goal, healing. I'm Kristina Fox, and today we're beginning our very first topic by looking through the eyes of families and loved ones. If you're listening as a parent, spouse, sibling, grandparent, child, or friend of someone struggling with addiction, I want you to know something. You're not crazy. You're not weak. And you're certainly not alone. One of the most common questions I hear from families is, why can't they understand what they're putting us through? Maybe you've asked yourself, if they loved me, why do they keep using? Don't they see what this is doing to our family? How many chances am I supposed to give? Those questions come from heartbreak. When someone you love struggles with addiction, your life changes too. You find yourself lying awake at night wondering if your phone is going to ring. You replay conversations in your head, wondering if you said the wrong thing. You cancel plans because you're emotionally exhausted. You begin living in survival mode. Many families slowly stop recognizing themselves. You become the investigator, the protector, the fixer, the rescuer, the worrier. Somewhere along the way, you stop simply being a husband, wife, parent, child, or friend. And that's a painful place to be. Then something else begins to happen. You start looking at the person you love through the lens of their addiction instead of the person they once were. Every promise sounds like another lie. Every excuse feels manipulative. Every relapse feels personal. Eventually, it's easy to believe, if they really loved me, they would just stop. From the family's perspective, that makes complete sense. Because you're measuring addiction through the pain it's causing everyone around you. You're watching someone destroy themselves and their health, lose jobs, damage relationships, face legal consequences, and still continue using. It doesn't make sense. How could it? Some have never experienced an addiction in the form of drugs themselves. So naturally, they try to understand it using logic. But addiction doesn't behave logically. That doesn't mean the damage isn't real, or that your pain isn't real. It certainly doesn't mean you should ignore harmful behaviors, place yourself in harm's way, or stop setting healthy boundaries. Your feelings matter. Your exhaustion matters. Your grief matters. Your pain matters. Most times, families carry just as much trauma as the person struggling with addiction. That's something we don't talk about nearly enough. But here's what I'd like you to consider before we end today's episode. What if the person you love isn't refusing to understand your pain? What if, in active addiction, they're so consumed by their own pain that they simply can't see yours? That doesn't excuse their behavior. It doesn't erase the consequences, but it may help explain why understanding each other can feel so difficult. The truth is, understanding another person's hardships isn't always easy because we're naturally focused on our own pain, our own fears, and our own needs. And there's nothing wrong with that. That's part of being human. The goal of this series isn't to minimize your pain or tell you how you should feel. It's to help us understand one another without dismissing our own experiences. You can acknowledge someone else's struggles without excusing their choices. You can have compassion while still holding healthy boundaries. And you can better understand why someone behaves the way they do without ignoring how their actions have affected you. Understanding doesn't erase accountability. It simply opens the door to healing. In part 2 of this episode, we will cross the bridge. We're going to hear this same conversation from the perspective of someone living with addiction. Not to excuse it, not to justify it, but to understand it. because healing begins when we stop asking, "Who's right?" and start asking, "What am I missing?" I thank you for spending this time with me today. If this episode encouraged you, I hope you'll like, share, and follow the podcast. And if there's a topic you'd like me to cover in a future episode, I'd truly love to hear from you. To connect with me, please visit my website at KristinaFoxAuthor.com. From there, you can explore my books, listen to the podcast, read the blog, subscribe to my newsletter, and connect with me across all of my social media platforms. Until next time, protect your peace, choose healthy boundaries, and remember, you can love them deeply without losing you in the process. Bridging the Gap, Episode 1, Part 2. Through the Eyes of Recovery. Why can't we understand each other? Welcome back. I'm Kristina Fox. Today, let's look at the same question from the perspective of someone struggling with addiction. More often than not, the people listening to this episode are those who are beginning to question their relationship with substances, those who have recently entered recovery, or those who are working every day to stay on the path of recovery. The reality is, active addiction tends to narrow our focus. It becomes about getting through the day, avoiding withdrawal, escaping emotional pain, quieting the shame, or simply surviving one more day. It's often difficult to step back while in addiction and fully see the impact it's having, not just on yourself, but on the people who love you. That doesn't mean you don't care. It doesn't mean you don't love your family. And it doesn't mean you wanted your life to become what it has. It means addiction has a way of changing how a person thinks, what they prioritize, and what they can realistically see while they're in the middle of it. Recovery begins when that fog slowly starts to lift. You begin seeing things differently. You begin recognizing the consequences of your choices. You begin understanding the pain your loved ones have been carrying. You begin remembering things you tried so hard to numb. For many people, that's one of the hardest parts of recovery. Not because you don't care, but because the fog is lifting and you're beginning to feel things again. So today, I'd like to speak to those of you who are beginning that journey, not with judgment, not with shame, but with honesty, compassion, and accountability. Because healing starts with being willing to understand not only yourself, but the people who have walked this journey beside you. This episode is not about making excuses. Addiction causes real pain. It damages trust. It hurts families. It leaves children confused. It destroys relationships. And every person is responsible for the choices they make while working toward recovery. But understanding why someone struggles isn't the same as excusing the struggle. It's simply another piece of the story. One of the most common things I hear from people living with addiction is, "Nobody cares about what I'm going through. Nobody understands me. I don't have anyone. Everyone hates me anyway." Many people assume addiction is simply a matter of willpower. If you really wanted to stop, you would. But if recovery were only about willpower, there wouldn't be millions of people fighting every single day to stay sober. For many, addiction didn't begin because they wanted to destroy their lives. It began because they were trying to escape something. Pain, trauma, loneliness, fear, depression, anxiety, shame. Sometimes addiction starts with trying to fit in with a prescription after surgery or with one bad decision. Sometimes no one can even point to where it began. Eventually, what started as an escape becomes a prison. Then something else happens. The people you love begin losing trust in you. You promise you'll stop. Then you relapse. You promise you'll change. then addiction takes over again. After enough broken promises, the people around you stop believing your words. That hurts. But if we're honest, they have a reason to feel that way. One of the hardest parts of addiction is knowing you're hurting the people you love and feeling trapped in a cycle you don't know how to escape. Many people in active addiction convince themselves, "I'm only hurting myself." But addiction never affects just one person. It reaches parents, children, spouses, grandparents, friends, coworkers, and entire communities. Recovery often begins when someone is finally able to see that truth. That realization can bring overwhelming guilt. Sometimes so much guilt that it becomes easier to use again than to face the damage. Because guilt says, "I did something wrong." Shame says, "There is something wrong with me." Recovery teaches us the difference. That's one of addiction's cruelest lies. It tells you that because you've made mistakes, you're beyond hope. But you're not. Healing doesn't begin when you become perfect. Healing begins the moment you stop lying to yourself. Then it continues when you become honest. Honest with yourself. Honest with the people you've hurt. Honest about the fact that recovery isn't something anyone can do for you. No one can force you to change. No one can love you into recovery. No one can rescue you enough times to heal what's happening inside of you. Recovery isn't something that's done to you. Recovery is something you choose every single day. That work belongs to you. Just as families have to do their own healing, people in recovery have to do theirs. Understanding your family's pain doesn't erase your own. And understanding your own pain doesn't erase theirs. The goal isn't to compare who has suffered more. The goal is to recognize that everyone has been affected differently. When we stop competing over whose pain matters most, we create room for healing. If you're listening today and you're struggling with addiction, I want you to know this. Your past does not have to determine your future. Your healing begins when you stop waiting for someone else to change your life. And realize you have more power than addiction wants you to believe. Recovery is one of the hardest things a person can do, but it is possible. One choice, one day, one honest moment at a time. This is only the beginning, and together we'll continue building this bridge. Because understanding doesn't erase accountability. It doesn't remove consequences. But it does remind us that healing becomes possible when we're willing to see the person behind the pain. Thank you for spending this time with me today. If this episode encouraged you, I hope you'll like, share, and follow the podcast. And if there's a topic you'd like me to cover in a future episode, I'd truly love to hear from you. To connect with me, please visit KristinaFoxAuthor.com. From there, you can explore my books, listen to the podcast, read the blog, subscribe to my newsletter, and connect with me across all of my social media platforms. Until next time, take responsibility for your healing, give yourself grace, and be honest with yourself. Recovery isn't about becoming who you used to be. It's about becoming who you were always capable of becoming. Every day you choose recovery, you're choosing yourself. Take care of yourself, and I'll see you in the next episode.